Hello, everyone at Wellness Wave Creations Mastermind and Brainstorming Group. I welcome you tonight. It's our evening here in British Columbia, Canada. And I welcome Mr. Sandeep Gupta, from India, today with us. And I wanted to introduce Sandeep by saying that thank you so much for taking up on my invitation. Sandeep is a consciousness expert and he's been helping individuals, leaders, and businesses for the last 40 years in unleashing and integrating the human dimension in life and business for quantum growth. Well, now that is a lot to digest, but acknowledged for his ability to break the complex into simple actionables. He has served thousands of people in India and abroad, and I'm so happy to have him on our live today with you guys so that you can and I can pick his brains about consciousness. So Sandeep, welcome. And the very first question, what is consciousness? Tell us all about that.
Well, first of all, Urshi, thank you very much, for inviting me. I feel honored. I feel excited. I feel happy. And I did attend your activation summit. I loved it. I loved your energy, Urshi. So God bless everyone. You talked about what is consciousness. You asked me that question. Well, consciousness is that innate human ability in us, which empowers us to be aware of what's happening outside us. At the same time, reflect upon what is happening inside us. And when we reflect upon what is happening inside us, we get to know why are we thinking, why are we behaving, why we are acting in a particular way. It helps us to develop our conscience. And when we develop our conscience, it puts us on the ladder to realize or unleash our absolute potential. So in simple words, what I'll say, consciousness, the way let me put it this way. Everything has got two dimensions, the external dimension and the internal dimension. External dimension is consciousness, what makes you aware of what's happening outside you. Now, this dimension is with every living species. The second dimension, to reflect on what is happening inside us, that is unique to man, that is unique to us, and that is responsible for all the evolution growth which we have seen. That is responsible for the refinement in our thoughts, in our emotions. So in other words, it can be said consciousness is the thinking behind the thinking. It can be said consciousness is being aware of what you are conscious of, and consciousness is the process of expanding your vision of reality and self on a constant basis till the time you reach or you realize the ultimate reality, ultimate truth. So that was a sort of a stadium view, Urshi, of what is consciousness.
So let me ask you, what brought you to this field 40 years ago?
40 years I have been working. Spirituality and philosophy, came to me reflexively, and probably 50% genes of my father and 50 DNA of my father and 50% DNA of my mother. My father was a philosopher. At the same time, my mother came from a highly spiritual family, and I might like to flag over here, spirituality and religion, they're two different things. So I'm talking of spirituality. It came to me reflexively, and then the university of life, the ups and downs of life, the realizations of life. I seeing extreme success, I seeing extreme failure, relationships forming, breaking, everything put together, made me realize that whatever we have is inside us. It is not outside us. And that is the time I started working on consciousness.
Isn't this amazing? What makes me think about how consciousness we cultivate in some way through experience. Would you agree?
Well, whether it's external consciousness or internal consciousness, all you're doing is experiencing. Without experience, you don't get knowledge, you don't become aware. So experience is the thing. And like in Buddhism, they talk of 9 levels of consciousness. The first 5 levels are the 5 senses. The 6th level is inform you. The 7th level is beyond that. Then the 8th and the 9th is what they call the Buddha consciousness. Interestingly, I have studied consciousness across traditions, and every tradition from ancient times believes consciousness is trainable, and yes, consciousness is trainable. And when you train your consciousness, you start experiencing things in a very different manner. To give you an example, you do business, and when you train your consciousness and continue doing business, nothing externally changes, but your goal of doing business changes, and that's an internal change. Because earlier, probably you were doing business for generating personal wealth, but once you start moving up to the higher levels of consciousness, then you think in terms of creating social wealth. And that makes the entire difference. And people think that, okay, now since I is not involved, it's all social, so it'll be philanthropy. They're grossly mistaken. When it's I, very few people connect with you. They only enter into a transaction with you because you are the source for them to fulfill their needs. But when you create social wealth, they collaborate with you and they support you. So even when your chips are down, they come forward and help you. And since there are no free lunches in life, what you gain in business by creating social wealth is unimaginable. Oshi, one example is Job Steves. He used to meditate, and he did say, when your mind calms down, new horizons open, new reality opens, reality and horizons which you could have never imagined existed. So what I say is the entire Apple family, which has changed the world, has been established on consciousness evolution, which Steve Jobs practiced.
Isn't this a phenomenal example that you bring from his books, as he's highly valued now that we're in my training group of distributor colleagues, and they will be seeing this recording. I want to say that he is highly showcased about when Apple actually established and Steve Jobs established why he is doing what he's doing, and people connected with that. And then that became a huge thing, so that people understand it's not just about monetary gain when how we do business, but there's a why we do what we do. And of course, serving the higher purpose when you can impact so many in your social circles. I mean, how much better can that be in terms of energy and frequency and raising frequency and working with other people in collaboration, right? So would you say that consciousness means mindfulness? And would you say that when we're mindful, then in order to find mindfulness, we have to withdraw, I think is what I'm trying to ask. Do you think it's required to retreat a bit in order to be mindful?
Mindfulness is only a tool in consciousness evolution. Consciousness is a journey from ignorance to absolute knowledge. And when I say absolute knowledge, what I mean is the truth, ultimate truth.
Yeah.
It's like an unfolding. And since all these folds are inside us, So mindfulness helps us to unfold, but consciousness evolution is much broader and much deeper than mindfulness. It is much broader and much deeper than emotional freedom technique. So I'll put it this way, mindfulness is a tool, emotional freedom technique again is a tool to clear the derbies which we find while we are moving from the lower spectrum of consciousness, that is I, me, my, where everyone, everything is an object for me, for my personal gratification. I have no sensitivity or consideration for other people, to the highest truth. That is where everything is inclusive, everything is mutual, everything is interconnected. And I start operating from selflessness. I start operating out of love. So in simple terms, it could be said at the lower end of the consciousness or the spectrum of consciousness, I'm operating out of anger, greed, attachment, ego, whereas on the upper end of consciousness, I'm acting out of love, compassion, bliss, happiness, reality. And it's a no-brainer, Oshi. The more reality you understand, the better would be your decision-making capabilities. Better would be your solutions. More sustainable would be your thoughts.
So I suppose that this would be called a win-win situation, you guys, when we are pondering over consciousness and one of its tools, which is mindfulness. And so Sandeep and I are going to continue this conversation. For those of you that are interested, you can tune in to our next segment of conversation about consciousness and how this really looks in our personal lives, in our kind of 3D reality. So I'll check in with you guys later, and with Sandeep being our guest from India. Thank you so much. This was Urshi at Wellness Wave Creations. Sandeep, we're going to go and stop the recording now, and we'll be back for the next one. Can't wait to see you guys all there. All right. Bye, you all.